On Monday, protests broke out across the nation over the shooting of Terrence Crutcher, a 40-year-old black man from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Crutcher was shot by a white officer after 911 calls identified him as a man who had abandoned his car in the middle of the road and appeared to be on drugs. He also had a history of drug crimes and gun crimes. Crutcher did disobey police orders, but he had his hands up before he approached his vehicle. Then he sort of lowered his hands and was shot. The police are undertaking a full investigation, of course. The officer will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law if the tape is representative of the events that occurred. Then, on Tuesday, a black officer from Charlotte, North Carolina, shot and killed a 43-year-old black guy named Keith Lamont Scott in a University City apartment parking lot. The police had been looking for somebody with an outstanding warrant when they saw Scott leave his car with a gun. After Scott got back in the car, the police approached him, at which point he emerged with the gun and, quote, posed an imminent deadly threat to the officers, who subsequently fired their weapon, striking the subject and killing him. The cops called a medic who began performing CPR. Despite the apparent fact that Scott was armed and tried to do something to the officers, his daughter released a video online saying that he was unarmed, that he was reading a book while waiting for his son to be let off the school bus, and that he was disabled, which is a great story, except none of it is actually supported by any of the facts that we've seen. Scott's death prompted a race riot in Charlotte, 12 officers injured, including 7 hospitalized, 1 struck in the face by a rock. The rioters didn't merely attack cops. They were throwing rocks and bottles from freeway overpasses onto drivers below. They also looted a Walmart as a protest for some reason, and they injured 3 reporters, including one who had to be hospitalized. The Black Lives Matter movement has been an utter disaster for the country. It's based on a provable lie that unarmed black people are disproportionately shot by the cops. It assumes Americans also don't care if unarmed black people are shot by the cops, but it actually does a disservice to innocent black people who do die at the hands of cops by lumping them in with purported victims who aren't victims at all. It's utterly unfair to lump in Walter Scott, shot in the back in South Carolina, with Michael Brown, a thug who attempted to murder a police officer. But that's what Black Lives Matter does every single day, driving riots from Ferguson to Baltimore. And in doing so, they undermine any effort toward racial unity. Americans are willing to mourn the death of innocents. In fact, we do mourn the death of innocents. But we're not willing to pillory cops in situations in which they use justified force on suspects. BLM, Black Lives Matter, they assume that cops are always wrong, invariably. So do leftist politicians like Hillary Clinton, who continue to pander to leftist black voters by lying about the cops. And the mentality that cops are the bad guys has predictable consequences. More people who are anti-cop, including 25-year-old Nicholas Glenn, a black man who shot 2 officers in Philadelphia on Friday, including a black female police officer, and left behind a note speaking of his, quote, hatred for police and probation officers, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. I just can't understand the reckless disregard or disrespect for law enforcement, said John McNesby, who's the president for the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge Number 5. I've never seen it at such a level as it is today. Hatred and slander of the police are horrifying and disgusting, but they're common in leftist politics today, and they prevent the country from coming together to protect both innocent people and the cops who defend them. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Alrighty, so welcome to the show. We're doing this, obviously, from a hotel near some college that I've heard of, some university called Yale, that's what it is. We're going to be speaking there tonight, and we'll be talking with all the precious snowflakes at Yale in just about a couple of hours here, so that's exciting. So if you're near Yale for some reason and you want to come out, it's free, and it should be a blast. If you want to stream it online, I know that the Young America's Foundation is also streaming it online, and we have some interesting things planned. Okay, but first, before we go any further, I want to mention one of our great sponsors, Helix Sleep. Helix Sleep is this great sponsor. What they do is you go on their website at helixsleep.com/Ben. You go to helixsleep.com/Ben. And when you do, you go through their questioning process about, do you like your mattress firm? Do you like it to be cooler? Do you get hot at night? Are you cold at night? And they customize a mattress for you. What's really cool is that if you're a couple and one of you likes the bed softer and one of you likes the bed harder, they'll actually customize a mattress that's harder on one side and softer on the other side. And then they mail you the mattress. It arrives at your door in about a week. Shipping is 100% free. And then if you don't like it, you try it out for 100 days. And if you don't like it, they'll pick it up for free, and they'll give you a 100% refund instead. So it really is no risk. I mean, you can try it, see if you like it. It's really cool. It comes in a box. You open up the box, and then it just inflates right in front of you, which is really neat. And I've slept on it. It's incredibly comfortable. I'm really grateful to Helix for sending me the mattress because I'm sleeping better because of that mattress. So it's helixsleep.com, and the mattresses are very, very affordable. It's hundreds of dollars instead of thousands of dollars. We got a king-size mattress, and that thing was like $995, which is a lot cheaper than it would be for an equally sized, really nice mattress somewhere else. So it's fantastic. Comes right to your door. You don't have to schlep it home. You don't have to worry about schlepping it back to the store if it's bad. HelixSleep.com/Ben. If you go to HelixSleep.com/Ben, use that promo code Ben, you get $50 off your order. Plus, you have the honor of knowing that you helped out the show, because obviously they advertise with us so that we bring them clients. And if you're one of the clients, better shot that all the deplorables behind the camera here get to remain employed. Okay, so lots going on in the world. Latest thing is Hillary Clinton has real problems in this election cycle. The polls are showing that this is way too close for comfort. 538.com particularly is now showing that Hillary's chances of winning, which used to be near 80%, are now all the way down to 56%. That's if the election is held November 8th. If the election were held today, should it be at 51%, Trump would be at 49%. That's how close this election is. And that's according to 538.com. And they do all of this comprehensive poll analysis. That means for Hillary, she's looking around and she's thinking to herself, how do I get more people out to vote? How do I get my people out to vote? And by my people out to vote, she really means the Obama coalition, which specifically means lots of minorities out to vote, lots of minority leftists out to vote. That's what she's really interested in pushing. That's her big thing. Well, one of the ways she's going to do this is by race baiting. She's going to pander racially. This is very important to her. She must pander racially. And so what we saw, we talked about Terrence Crutcher and that shooting in Tulsa. We showed the tape yesterday. It looked like a bad shoot, but as we see more information, we'll find out. Apparently, Terrence Crutcher had PCP in his car, which may explain why he didn't respond to a taser, but he was tased and shot at the same time, so it's possible that it's a bad shoot, even if he was not obeying officer commands. You don't get shot for disobeying officer commands. You should do it. It's going to increase your chances of not getting shot, but as a general rule, you're not going to get shot if you don't actually provide an imminent threat to the officers. But the real story today is what's happening in Charlotte. So 12 officers injured, 7 of them wounded enough to go to the hospital. 1 was really wounded, hit in the face by a rock. These so-called protesters, these pieces of crap, they were throwing bricks and rocks off freeway overpasses, trying to kill people. And then they were breaking into Walmart. So here's some of the protesters and what they were doing last night after. Let me give you the details of the case, and we'll play the tape. So the details of the case, as I mentioned in the intro here, the details of the case are that the supposed victim in this case was a guy who the police went to an apartment complex to try and search down a guy who had an outstanding warrant. This was not that guy, but the guy decided to pop out of his car anyway with a gun, and they shot him dead. The guy's, I think it's his daughter, she then posted online something about how he was unarmed and he was just sitting there reading a book. He was probably reading, something deep like Aristotle or Plato, and he was just waiting for his son to get off the school bus, and they shot him dead for no reason. Turns out none of that is true. The black police chief in Charlotte Mecklenburg, he says that's not true. He was an imminent threat. He pulled the gun on the officers. In any case, all of this goes down, and the protesters emerge to throw rocks at passing cars, because that's what we do now. And here are the protesters doing their best to really make a difference for race relations by breaking into the local Walmart. So you can see them really doing the things that protesters are fond of doing, the things that are really important. And they didn't just do that. They also decided it would be fun to jump up and down on a police cruiser. So here's what that looked like.
We're going to stop you right now because we're looking at live pictures of Sky 3. And, Paul, you and I are both seeing this. Everybody watching is seeing this. Maybe 25 people on top of a CMPD cruiser. Looks almost like an SUV. Windshields are cracked, shattered. People on the roof kicking in the side windows. You can see very clearly that that was a violent act against the patrol car. We had not seen a lot of violence up until this point. It had remained tense but relatively calm. But this picture is quite different, Paul.
Moments ago, CMPD also tweeted out that agitators had joined this crowd of protesters. It had been peaceful up to this point. And once again, Sky 3 has its searchlight on there, the police helicopter as well. They have cracked the front windshield by stomping on it. They've been on top of this car. Again, we saw some of the smoke bombs go off just a few minutes ago. It is pretty much a bit of chaos going on. I thought for a moment the crowd might be dispersing, but we can see that it has moved up the street away from where Sarah Blake Morgan was standing just a few minutes ago. And this is a much wilder scene of folks here who are fairly angry.
A fear in these situations is that people just join in, not even...
Yeah, fairly angry. And those people are really doing the Lord's work. I mean, if you look at them doing what they're doing, it's clear that what they're really angry about is clearly cop racism. By the way, the cop who shot the black guy is black. But no matter, all cops are racist, all cops are evil. And we learned this from the brother of the supposed victim in this case. Here's tape of the brother of the supposed victim, and here's what he had to say to all of the white folks out there.
Anything we should know?
No. You just know that all white people are devils.
And make sure you air that one.
Air that.
Don't take that
All
one.
white cops are devils and white people. Y'all are devils. I don't like none of you motherfuckers.
It seems to me after watching that, the white racism is really the problem here. I mean, I watch that and I go, white racism is seriously, there's no such thing as black racism. There isn't. I mean, this is what I've heard from Mark Lamont Hill. I've heard this from other leftist commentators. There is no such thing as a black racist person. They just don't exist. They're myths. They're just in your mind. They're like unicorns. You know, and of course, that's not true. Maybe one of the reasons that the cops are having a hard time in black communities is because there are people like this guy who thinks that all black people are wonderful, presumably, and all white people are devils. I still don't know what he's talking about, considering the guy who shot his brother was actually a black guy, but I guess he becomes white the minute he puts on a police uniform. So this is wonderful. And then, thankfully, we have Hillary Clinton here to really make sure that we can tamp all of this down. Hillary does the responsible thing. You know, earlier this week, we saw Hillary Clinton say that we wouldn't want to be irresponsible about any of this. We have to be very, very responsible in not jumping to conclusions. Remember, she ripped Donald Trump apart because Donald Trump called a bombing before she wanted him to call a bombing a bombing. Now, though, it's important that we jump to conclusions. So Hillary tweets something out. Here's what Hillary tweets. This is Hillary's tweet. Can we put that up? So Hillary's tweet suggests equivalence between Terrence Crutcher and this other shooting victim in North Carolina, who really isn't the victim. He's actually a perpetrator. He's actually the problem. The Hillary tweet is exactly what it looks like, right? It's just a way for her to lump together all shootings under the banner of they're racist and wrongful, even though, again, there's no evidence that any of this was racist and wrongful, because that's what Hillary Clinton has to do. She's now going to do the full lefty routine. She's now going to suggest that all shootings by cops are bad, right? She wrote Keith Lamont Scott, Terrence Crutcher, too many others. This has got to end. -H. When she adds the -H, that means that she personally wrote it, right? It wasn't one of her staffers. She personally wrote it because she is a deeply special and wonderful human being. This is the worst stuff ever. I mean, first of all, there's no evidence that either shooting was racially based. Even the one in Tulsa, no evidence that this is a race-based shooting. Second, the Scott shooting may well have been justified given all of the facts that we currently know. That's not the only thing that Hillary had to say about this. Here was Hillary on the Steve Harvey show. When Steve Harvey isn't laughing at the word penis over and over on his ridiculous Family Feud show, he does a radio show that isn't very good. And here's Steve Harvey talking about with Hillary Clinton about race.
We've got to tackle systemic racism, this horrible shooting again. How many times do we have to see this in our country? In Tulsa, an unarmed man with his hands in the air. I mean, this is just unbearable, and it needs to be intolerable. And so, you know, maybe I can, by speaking directly to white people, say, look, this is not who we are. We've got to do everything possible to improve policing.
Okay, screw you, Hillary Clinton. Screw you. This is absurdity of the highest level. You're going to be the go-between for the white community? You're going to lecture the white community because the white community wants to see innocent black people die? That's the idea here. You're going to lecture all of us on morality? You have to make it unacceptable? I have a question. Who out there, anybody cheering when an unarmed black man gets shot? Who are the people who just say that they want to go to the black community and then shoot everybody? Just shoot all the unarmed people that they can possibly find. Nobody is saying that, but Hillary claims that's what's being said. Hillary claims that the way this is supposed to go is that the white people like when unarmed black people are shot, and the black people are just the innocent victims every time there's a cop shooting. Again, the idea that she's going to lecture all of us is just insane. She continued, by the way, she said, maybe I can, by speaking directly to white people, say, look, this is not who we are. We've got to do everything possible to improve policing, to go right at implicit bias. Let me say something about implicit bias. So the left likes to talk a lot about what they call implicit bias training. Let's talk about implicit bias training. Okay, the idea of implicit bias, the idea that we all have this bias in the back of our mind, and that's why cops are shooting black people. There's no evidence that implicit bias affects behavior. This is the dirty little secret about implicit bias studies. There's also no evidence that any sort of police training program gets rid of the implicit bias. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. So it's just all of this is just crap that Hillary spouts out there. She just spouts out there so that she can pander to black people and hope that they all show up in mass numbers. She's trying to play the Obama card, the Cambridge police acted stupidly card, the Ferguson police have to be investigated card. She's trying to play Obama and she's failing. And for her to say that she's going to lecture the white community about how to treat black people, I mean, again, the Clintons are not exactly famous for being perfectly wonderful about black folks. Okay? They have a long history of antipathy toward the Obama family, for example. And there are a lot of people in the black community who aren't particularly happy with Hillary's verbiage about black criminals back in the 1990s. But Hillary's going to lecture the rest of us about how we're supposed to treat black people because she is the great moral arbiter of our time. How disgusting she is. And we know that she's a great moral arbiter. We know that she's a great moral arbiter because we know that she is the one who is going to tell all the white people to start caring about dead black people. She's the great moral arbiter because she believes that all police shootings are equivalent, whether the person is innocent or whether they're not innocent. It's all just evidence of the systemic white racism. It really is very gross. Okay, I'll take a break really quickly to say hello to our friends over at Birch Gold. So if you wanted to purchase precious metals, if you're looking at the way that the world is going, the way that the United States is going, and you're feeling uncertain about the economy, uncertain about how things are moving forward, and you're looking to invest in precious metals, you want to get your 401k into precious metals, then you need to talk to my friends at Birch Gold. You go to birchgold.com, birchgold.com/Ben. You use /Ben so that they know that we sent you, or you can call them at 800-496-6663. I trust them for precious metal purchases. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. If you want to get more information about doing this, you need to call them again. The number is 800-496-6663, and then you need to talk with them and ask all your questions. They'll send you the 16-page free kit about how gold and silver can protect your savings and how you can move from the stock market into precious metals if you choose to do so. Ask all your questions, get all the information about your finances before you make a call, but they're the right people to call when you're ready to do that. So again, our friends are birchgold.com/Ben. Okay, so Donald Trump reacts to all of this, and Donald Trump, he reacts by first of all, he came out today and he said that the Tulsa tape disturbed him. I think the Tulsa tape disturbed everybody. It disturbed me too. He went on and said that it looked like a bad shoot. He actually went further than that. He went a little bit too far, in my opinion, without waiting for all of the facts. But Trump continued by saying the black communities are in the worst shape they've ever been. So here's Trump's response to all of the race baiting Hillary Clinton is doing.
We're going to make our country safe again. We're going to rebuild our inner cities because our African-American communities are absolutely in the worst shape that they've ever been in before, ever, ever, ever. You take a look at the inner cities, you get no education, you get no jobs, you get shot walking down the street. They're worse. I mean, honestly, places like Afghanistan are safer than some of our inner cities.
Okay, so this is Trump overstating the case. The problem is if you're trying to actually woo black votes, you don't tell them that every place that they live is a terrible place. What you say is too many of these cities are dangerous. Too many of these cities are terrible places to live. But he's speaking to quality of life. He's speaking to quality of life issues at the same time that Hillary is not speaking to quality of life issues. What he's saying is closer to the truth than what Hillary is saying. Hillary is saying we don't have a quality of life issue. We have a white cop issue. We have a white racism issue. And I just returned back to that clip of this North Carolina guy's brother, the guy who got shot, his brother, saying that all white people are devils. And I would suggest the problem is not the white people. The problem might be a pathology within certain segments of the black community that says that we are allowed to be lawless if we so choose, and that the white community is to blame for that. That's not all black people. That's not even the majority of black people. That's not even the majority of black people living in high crime areas. But there is a certain group of people who think that the white man is to blame for all of the racial problems in America. And that's really disgusting, because if we all just acted decently, black, white, and green, we'd all be a hell of a lot better off. Now, as we continue here on the Ben Shapiro Show, we're going to continue over at dailywire.com. If you want to watch the rest of the show live, go to dailywire.com right now. You can subscribe for $8 a month, or you can get an annual membership, which gets you a signed copy of Andrew Klavan's book. And we're going to be giving away signed copies of my new novel that comes out November 1st. And so all of that's very exciting. You can also be part of the mailbag. We do the mailbag tomorrow, which is good stuff. And not only do we do that, we now have the capacity to do live question and answer during the show. And if you want to be part of that, you go and you subscribe at dailywire.com, watch the rest of the show live. If not, you can pick us up later on iTunes or SoundCloud or YouTube. You can check us out a little bit later. We are the #1 conservative podcast in America, and we're so glad you can join us. But continue to join us by going over to dailywire.com right now.